got a good one. We're going to talk about how the Black Zone in Albion Online is the unsafe area of the game, where if you go out there, you may well lose everything you have. If you get killed by another player, they will take all of the stuff you're carrying, they will take your gear, they will take all of it. And so the other side of that is that's where the good stuff is. So if you want to get the high tier materials, if you want to get a lot of fame and XP and make money fast, that's a place to go. But the downside is you got to be careful. You go out there by yourself and you are trying to make money. Well, you don't want to go out there with a really, really expensive set on. So you go out there with some kind of cheap gear because you think to yourself, well, if I die, then I got to make sure that I'm able to replace my gear. That's how it works. Then you have the safe areas of the game, the blue zones and the yellow zones, where it's actually very safe and easy to gather things and kill mobs and do all that kind of stuff. Well, maybe it's a little more boring, you make less profit, so there's less risk, there's less reward. But what's interesting is in those dangerous areas, you have to be more alert. So, for example, if I'm just sitting there and I want to watch my favorite TV show while I hunt and gather, I can't necessarily do that as easily in the Black Zone because I've got to make sure that I'm listening for footsteps and I'm being aware of my surroundings and I'm ready to fight or run or all that kind of stuff. So in a way, the game is a lot harder and less fun to play in those areas, at least from a certain perspective. You can't play it as casually there, certainly. But in my experience, what is fascinating here is that as a casual, I make about the same amount of money in the Black Zone as I do in the yellow and blue zones. And the reason is, in the safe areas, I don't have to ever worry about replacing my gear because I don't ever lose it. And I don't have to worry about leaving the area quickly so that I don't wind up dying with a lot of expensive materials on me or something like that. So, since I don't have to have my guard up, it's a lot easier for me to keep my profits and live off of less. And that's really true in life as well. I think that's interesting how in this particular case art imitates life very well. Life is filled with opportunities we have to commit to, say, a guild. Maybe a corporation would be a better way to put it. You could go work for a big company and you could sell a piece of your soul in exchange for a better salary. You don't have any personal time. You don't have any sense of self, right? You give up a big part of yourself so that you can get more profits. A lot of people do that. They don't have good work-life balance. They don't really even have personal lives because they've sold their soul to something else so they can get that promise of safety. And it's that way in Albion Online. You could join a guild, you could work for the guild, and then you're going to have to jump in the Discord when they want you to jump in the Discord. And when it's time to go to war, you're going to have to be ready, and you're going to have to gear a certain way, and you're going to have to play the game the way they want you to play the game. And maybe in return, you could get a promise of relative security in some of those high tier areas. But is it really worth it? Is it worth it to have more access when you're paying for it with your liberty as a player? I don't know that that's really worth it in the game. I also don't know that it's really worth it in life. Then there's the possibility that you could just be more aggressive. You could get out there and you can take risks and you can kind of gamble with your life, and maybe you get more return on investment that way. You venture more, you gain more, even as a solo player. But now you have to watch your back. You have to have contingency plans for when something goes wrong. You have to re-gear when you lose. You have all of these added costs of stress and of maintenance costs that you wouldn't have if you just lived a simple life that was less risky. And in the end, the reality is you can take those risks. You can sell your soul to the company store. You can do all that stuff. And quite possibly, you're not necessarily going to make out better in the end for it. Sometimes it just works out to be a wash. Of course, for some people, it doesn't. For some people, they're wildly successful because that's what they're meant to do. But that's not everybody. And there's a lot of people who chase wealth because they want the promise that it offers. And what they don't realize is that most people don't get the promise. Most people are just chasing the possibility. And you're better off to have a small amount of success that's guaranteed than a big prospect of success, which ultimately ends up being a lot of failures along the way, a lot of setbacks that you have to pay for, a lot of lost peace as you try to chase success and then navigate the hurdles you face throughout that journey. Life is pretty easy to live when you let go of the expectation of jumping on a treadmill and chasing things that you maybe are told by other people you need to chase, or things that you just emotionally feel like you need to do. And then you can take your money, you can invest your money, you can do things that you enjoy and just play your life casually, and you might find that in the end you do just as well if you live simply and humbly and stop chasing things. And you'll have more fun too. And as a side effect, you probably actually make other people's lives better too. Because when you have time and you're not stressed and you're not worried about things and you're not chasing things, you're not always trying to play God in your life or with other people's lives, then other people will trust you. And I think about this a lot because I know that there's people who are chasing things in life and they're always trying to be in the fast lane. They're always trying to keep up with somebody. They're always trying to prove that they're the most qualified. They're always trying to be in charge of something, the master of something. And the truth is, I always write those people off as folks who, even if they're good at something, I would never have them as a personal friend. I would never just hang out with them because we don't really have anything in common. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to prove anything to other people, and they are. I'm satisfied with the life I've been given, and they're not. And it's kind of like that player in this video game. That person who's an aggressive PvPer, they're always doing some kind of ZVZ thing or a guild thing, or they are out ganking in the black zone somewhere and they're bragging about how much silver they got off of somebody or whatever it is. You know, I'm just a casual. I'm just planting my crops and doing some peaceful gathering and flipping some things on the market while I watch some TV show. You know, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. So why would I hang with the people who are? More power to them if that's how they want to play the game, but that's not my play style. And I'm just using this as an allegory for life, because so often we get so determined to chase things and we think that we have to in order to be successful. But the crazy thing is, when you do the math and you really add it all up, you'll realize that it doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much you save, how much you invest, how much you keep out of that which you've been given. And we're given commodities to spend and to allocate in our lives. Some of those are financial commodities. Some of them are physical commodities. Some of them are spiritual commodities like time or love. And it's important for us to realize that we can afford to do more with less if we stop risking so much and losing so much along the way. Life's a lot easier if you're not taking 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back all the time. Just take 1 step at a time. And then you can just be blessed in a simple way. And you might find that you have a really good time. I couldn't say how many times I've heard people say Albion Online is a PvP only game. You have to be hardcore into it or you're not going to have a good time. And it's true. It is kind of a PvP centered game, absolutely. But the truth is, you can fight mobs and clip trees in a safe area or in a dangerous area. There is no requirement that you play a certain way. People might say there is, but there really isn't. And sometimes when you let go of that belief that you're going to be missing out if you don't chase what other people tell you to chase, then you realize you can actually have a pretty good time just being yourself. So however you play in a way that brings joy into your life. And that's true in Albion Online or any video game. And it's also true, perhaps even more so, in real life. So till next time, thank you for watching.